The moment humans first stepped onto the moon, history changed forever. But almost immediately doubt followed. For more than 5 decades, people around the world have asked the same question again and again. Did we really land on the moon, or was it all an elaborate lie? Today, instead of rumors, internet comments, or blurry screenshots, we are doing something different. I investigated every major moon landing conspiracy theory with an actual NASA engineer who worked directly with Apollo-era data and modern space missions. This is not about belief. This is about evidence, physics, engineering, and hard reality. Let us begin with the most famous claim of all. People say the moon landing was filmed on a soundstage. They point to the waving flag, strange shadows, and dramatic lighting. According to the conspiracy, NASA could not risk failure during the Cold War, so they staged the landing to beat the Soviet Union. When I presented this claim to the NASA engineer, his reaction was calm but firm. He explained that filming a fake moon landing in the 1960s would have been harder than actually going to the moon. The technology needed to fake low gravity, vacuum conditions, and accurate lighting simply did not exist at that time. The flag is often cited as proof because it appears to wave. In reality, the flag had a horizontal support rod to keep it extended since there is no wind on the moon. When astronauts twisted the pole into the ground, the fabric moved and continued oscillating because there is no air resistance to slow it down. The motion stops exactly as physics predicts in a vacuum. Studio air would have caused constant fluttering, which we do not see. Next, the shadows. People claim the shadows are not parallel, suggesting multiple light sources like studio lights. The engineer explained that this is basic perspective. On uneven terrain, shadows appear to diverge just like railroad tracks seem to separate in the distance. The sun was the only light source, but the moon's reflective surface also bounced light upward, illuminating areas that would otherwise appear dark. This phenomenon is known as lunar albedo, and it matches precisely with the photographs. Then there is the argument that stars are missing from the photos. Conspiracy theorists say this proves the images were taken on a set. The reality is far less mysterious. The camera settings were adjusted for bright lunar daylight. Stars are extremely dim compared to the sunlit surface of the moon. With short exposure times, stars simply do not appear. This is the same reason you cannot photograph stars during the day on Earth. Another claim is that the Van Allen radiation belts would have killed the astronauts. This is one of the most persistent myths. The NASA engineer explained that the Van Allen belts are not a solid wall of radiation. Apollo spacecraft passed through the thinnest regions at high speed, minimizing exposure. The total radiation dose received by astronauts was lower than what some cancer patients receive during medical imaging. This data is publicly available and has been independently verified. Some people argue that NASA lost the original moon landing tapes, implying a cover-up. The truth is more embarrassing than sinister. The original telemetry tapes were erased and reused during a time when data storage was extremely limited and expensive. However, multiple backup recordings, photographs, and transmissions exist across NASA, international observatories, and private collectors. Thousands of hours of data remain intact and consistent. Another popular theory claims that no one has returned to the moon because we never went in the first place. The engineer explained that returning to the moon was not abandoned due to impossibility, but due to cost and shifting political priorities. Apollo was incredibly expensive, consuming over 4% of the United States federal budget at its peak. Once the Cold War goal was achieved, funding moved toward space stations, robotic probes, and scientific missions. There is also the argument that modern technology should easily replicate the moon landing footage, yet NASA struggles to return humans today. This misunderstands how engineering works. The Saturn V rocket remains the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown. Much of the Apollo-era hardware was custom-built, and the factories that produced them no longer exist. Modern spaceflight prioritizes safety, sustainability, and reusability rather than brute force. One conspiracy suggests that astronauts could not survive the extreme temperature swings on the moon. In reality, the spacesuits were marvels of engineering. They used multiple layers, reflective insulation, and liquid cooling systems. The engineer explained that these suits functioned like personal spacecraft, maintaining stable temperatures regardless of external conditions. Modern spacesuits still rely on the same fundamental principles developed during Apollo. Perhaps the most compelling evidence against conspiracy theories comes from outside the United States. During the Apollo missions, the Soviet Union tracked the spacecraft independently. At the height of the Cold War, exposing a fake moon landing would have been a massive political victory. Yet the Soviets confirmed the missions were real. Additionally, observatories around the world received Apollo transmissions in real time. There is physical evidence on the moon itself. Apollo astronauts left retroreflectors on the lunar surface. To this day, scientists fire lasers from Earth and measure the reflection to calculate the distance between Earth and the moon with millimeter precision. These reflectors cannot be placed robotically with the precision required at that time. They are still used in modern experiments. Moon rocks are another key piece of evidence. Over 300 kilograms of lunar samples were brought back. These rocks are fundamentally different from Earth rocks. They contain unique isotopic compositions and micrometeorite impact patterns that cannot form in Earth's atmosphere. Scientists from multiple countries have studied them independently for decades. When I asked the NASA engineer why moon landing conspiracies persist, his answer was surprisingly human. The moon landing feels almost too extraordinary. Humans traveling nearly 400,000 kilometers through space, landing on another world, and returning safely challenges our sense of what is possible. Conspiracy theories offer a simpler story that feels more controllable than reality. The internet has amplified these myths, often removing context and nuance. Short clips and images circulate without explanation, allowing misunderstandings to grow. But science does not rely on belief. It relies on reproducible evidence, independent verification, and physical laws that remain consistent whether we accept them or not. As humanity prepares to return to the moon through modern programs and international cooperation, we stand on the shoulders of Apollo. The engineers, astronauts, and scientists of that era achieved something that still inspires awe today. Questioning history is healthy, but ignoring evidence is not skepticism. It is denial. The moon landing was real. Not because NASA says so, but because physics, engineering, international observation, and tangible artifacts all say the same thing. When we look up at the moon tonight, we are not looking at a mystery built on lies. We are looking at a destination humanity has already reached, and one we are ready to explore again.